Installing the bed in the house. This is our layout. So our bundle of top, bottom, and headboard and toe kick and back stretcher goes in the center. These holes are face up, and then our verticals go sides down, edge banding in towards the panels. So we got that in place. We're gonna put in our long ray fix screw in all of the 5mm holes, bottom, headboard here, back stretcher here, except for these top three here, get the long dowel for the mini fix. And then we're gonna place our top here as well. Face the holes, the mini fix holes are down, and we're gonna put our ray fixes in. This gives us, this is positioned right now to where now we can go ahead and assemble the bed without having to move anything a second time. Now that we have all our ray fix screws in, the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna stand up one vertical, and we're gonna slide the headboard onto that vertical and tighten the mini fix. Lift up on the headboard just a little bit. You want to have the vertical panels spaced out on the end. We don't want them at extreme angles. We don't want to pull the dowels out. After that, we're going to pull out the top stretcher. The cam fittings are going to facing the back, and they lift into place. We're going to go ahead and tighten all of the screws on that one. Next item off the stack is the toe kick. Once again, careful as we're spreading stuff out, we don't want to break anything. I'm just going to slide that into place. Lock those in, make sure we get both of those locked nice and tight. Next item is the bed deck. This doesn't have any edge banding on it. The cam fittings come down, and it's just gonna drop down into place and then slide down on our cam fittings on the back side. Once again, we're going to tighten those cam fittings there, making sure everything's flush. Last part on the bottom is our back stretcher. Put it kind of in the middle there, raise it up. Once again, all of the cam fittings are facing us, so when it's against the wall, we're not going to see any of them. Last item on the bed cabinet is the headboard. This is a little tricky because it's at an angle. I'm going to slide that in. This one works good if you've got two people on it. Once again, the cam fittings up. Tighten it all up. So now our box is all complete. Now with the bed box all assembled, all of our cam fittings tight, we're gonna go ahead and lift the bed box up. And we're gonna slide it in place on the wall. Pull our runners out. Go ahead and push it tight against the wall. Next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna open up our box with our mechanisms in them. When you pull it out, it's gonna have 4 springs on it. The amount of springs that you need on it is gonna vary. We normally add 3 springs to it for our queen size pillow top mattress. So we're gonna add those in. They can be a little bit tough, but you wanna work from the inside towards the end and get them there. You don't wanna have a whole bunch on one end and none on this end. Next, we're going to install the mechanism onto the bed. The top hole is threaded. The rest of them we're going to put a nut on. So we always start at the top one. Okay, to access these two holes right here, you're just gonna push the mechanism arm back. You'll see Matt do that here. Push that back. Start your nuts on there. Make sure you don't cross thread the nuts there. Suck it in. It's going to self-countersink until the bolt is flush with the panel. Go ahead and repeat the process on the other side of the bed. Next on the list is we're going to secure the top of the bed to the wall. So Matt's up here. We're putting L brackets in. Those L brackets need to go into the stud. And then we use a 5/8 inch screw that screws into the top of the bed. We're going to do that in 3 to 4 points along the top of the bed. Okay, in today's scenario, we're actually assembling the bed panel here in the home. We built these little lifts that hold the panels about 10 inches off the floor so that we can assemble the bed without being right on the floor, but you can't do it right on the floor. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to lay the panels out. And we've got them kind of separated and kind of offset, you can see on the end, so that the bed panel isn't falling off while we're working on it. And then when we get to the next point of screwing it together, we'll move all those closer together. So the first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna lay out the bed frame like this, and then we're gonna install the corner bracket. Okay, this is our blister pack with our corner items in it. We're gonna flip this over, and we're not gonna take everything out, we're just gonna cut open the backs here. We're going to put this little angle bracket on with the 2 screws. I like to do it on the 2 edge panels laying down first. Don't try to stand them up and do everything in one corner. To start with, put them on both ends of the short ones first, and then we'll stand everything up and put it together. Now we're going to go ahead, this works really good if you got 2 people. One guy's going to hold the rail up, and the other guy's going to put the side screws in. So on this one here, this dowel with this long bolt is going to go in the bottom hole, and the regular one is going to go in the top hole. Normally what we do is we put everything in just finger tight, and then once we have it in, we'll tighten it. We want to be real careful with these ones when we do tighten it. 1, not to cross thread them when we're putting them on, and 2, not to over tighten them because these will break, and there's only enough in a kit for that set. This top one can be a little tough to get to, and so sometimes we'll use a screwdriver and get it tightened on there, just hand tight. This is what we call the head end of the bed, or the part that's going to connect to the mechanism right here. So with that, we're going to put it together. There's this little angle bracket that goes on the side of the bed, and this piece sticks out. This goes on the long side there. And Phil's going to put that in place. That keeps, if the bed's lowered without the leg, it keeps it from breaking this corner off the bed. It helps reduce that possibility of damage. And now we're going to tighten everything up, and we've got a socket on the back side and a screwdriver on the front side. We don't want to hit the outside with an impact and hold it with a wrench on the inside, because what will happen is it'll strip this out and leave a sharp point. So this is just here to hold it in place. We're doing our work with our drill, and we're going to be very, very careful and soft with this so we don't break the bolt. I'm going to go ahead and do that with all 16 bolts. Okay, now we have all of the corners tight on the bed frame. We're going to push all of the bed panels together and line them up. We've got little spacers that we space them out. It's about the thickness of a quarter or a mending plate that we're going to leave between. Yeah, we've got the panels all pushed together. We've got our spacers in. On the head of the bed, we're gonna align this. When we install it, we're gonna be flush. And on this end here, it's gonna stick out about 3/4 of an inch to an inch. And we're gonna be even on both sides. I'll show you how we do that. The most important part of this bed when we're screwing it down is that right along in here to this hole here, that our spacing is even on both sides, over here and over here. It's gonna come out probably 24 millimeters is pretty standard on that. If we have it offset, the frame is offset on those panels, our gap on the door will be different and we won't be able to correct it. The first 2 feet right here is the most important part of assembling the frame. All right, we have these special clamps that we've made, and we've got a set screw on the bottom right here that pushes against the panel, and then we have a set screw up against the frame that we can adjust. And what we're looking for is evenness on there. I like using a metric tape. We're 24.5 millimeters on this one, and we're 24.5 millimeters on the other side. So now is what we're gonna do is we're gonna flush everything up along the bottom here and start putting screws in. The important thing I'm putting the screws in, one, you need a square drive extension. You want this long one, this is the best one. You want one that's smooth. And when you're putting screws in, if you rub up against the frame, the hexagon ones will chip the frame. And you want the number 2 square drive. You don't want to try to do this with a Phillips or it'll just drive you nuts. We actually have screws, we buy different screws than come in the kit that are just a square drive. They're not a combination, and it makes things a lot easier. So what we're gonna do here is we're gonna center it, we're gonna flush out the panel on the bottom here, and we're gonna put the screw in. We're not gonna put the first screw in right here at the edge. We're gonna come back 3 or 4 holes and start there. And that way, if we need to adjust it, we can manipulate where we put the screw in the hole to move things around a little bit. Okay, we've got all of that. We have a couple of screws in each panel holding it straight. We're flush, our joints are flush, that's important right there. And we're right, I leave it about an 1/8 to 1/16 of an inch off of the frame sticking out. So you can see here, we're even all the way across. Now we're gonna come up, the next thing we're gonna do is we've got our measurement here, but we're also gonna check it about where this hole is here. We're gonna measure it on each side to make sure that that space is the same on both sides. This top area, just so you know, is sometimes these frames aren't completely square, and so your measurements might not match. We want it as even as we can in there. We don't want one side sticking way off, but if we're 2 millimeters different across the top here or something like that, it's not an issue. The main thing is that our joints at our doors are nice and level and it's square. And the most important is this guy right here is at the correct size. We now have the frame basically tacked in place. We got screws randomly around it. The bed side to side isn't gonna move. Up here we've got screws in the top of the headboard, and we've got all of our gaps are aligned. So now we're ready to go. We're gonna fill in the perimeter of the bed frame with our screws. Normally I put 2 guys on it, and it's a race to see who can put the most screws in. In the shop, we do this on a higher table so that we're bent over or hunched over like we are here. This is a terrible position. We don't do this very often with them in the field, but you'll notice that when I'm doing this, that I don't ever pick the drill up more than a couple inches away from where we're at, and we just keep on moving. And now that we're finishing up the perimeter screws, we got all of our screws are in, and on the perimeter, we're gonna lay out our cross braces. This is a flat panel bed, meaning that we can put a screw in it anywhere. If you're doing raised panel or shaker doors, you have to be very careful of where you put screws in. I'll include a picture here of a stick that we use in the shop that shows where not to put stuff. But like I said, this is a flat panel, so we can put them in here. So here's what we're gonna do. Our layout on these, the middle one goes in the center of the bed. Queen size are gonna be 42 inches. And then is where we put these next ones. These holes right here is where the mechanism is gonna bolt to it. And we're gonna put it just down from that, about an inch, inch and a half down from that. We don't want, we used to put it right here, but we found that it gets in the way when we're tightening the bed mechanism. So we're just gonna put them evenly across here, just down from that hole, and we're gonna do the same thing on this end, right about there. We're gonna square them up and we're gonna put all of our screws in there. There are plenty of screws holding these in, so if you get really close, like this one here, we're within 1/4 of an inch of the seam. Don't put one there. Obviously, if this is a raised panel bed, make sure you're not putting them through the raised panel. But we're gonna go ahead and screw these in, and then we're almost done with this bed. Now we're putting the strap on, and so on the one end, we're gonna double it over. We put the washer on it, and then we're gonna screw it in. And you have to kind of hold it tight there so that it doesn't wind up and make a mess like Matt used to do. Okay, on this one with the buckle side, it's got a long strap. The problem with that is it puts the buckle on top of the mattress and makes it uncomfortable for the customer. So what we do is we fold that strap in half and put the screw in, and now it's shorter and the buckle will stay on the side of the mattress and not be uncomfortable for the customer. Last thing to do before we put the bed panel on the bed is we're gonna put the legs on. Now it's got a bunch of hardware here. I'll walk you through the order of it, and just be aware there are a couple more parts here than you need. Don't feel that you have to use every one. Okay, so putting the leg on, we've got this guy right here. We're gonna put, this is the plastic friction washer. It's the one that kind of bends like this and is soft. That goes on here over the stud, and then we're gonna slide it through this spot right here. Goes like that. Then we have a metal washer with a large hole that goes in there, and then we have a metal washer with a small hole, and then the nut goes on. And then we're gonna tighten this with the impact, once again gently. And we want this, we want the leg to move up and down smoothly, not rattle, and not be tight that we've got to move it. So I got that one just right. Sometimes you got to play with it just a little bit, but that's the order. When you do that on both sides, you're going to have 2 of these guys left. Don't freak out, just throw them in the garbage. Okay, now we're gonna put this leg bar on between both legs. It comes with a bolt and a washer. It's kind of a lock washer. And over the years is what we've added is we add just a little bit of Loctite to it. We don't want this coming loose. So it's gonna go through here. We're gonna lift the leg bar up, and we're gonna start it, and then we're gonna do the other side. We've got, this is 7/16 on here. We're gonna tighten it up. We want to be careful. We don't want to over tighten it. These bolts, we've seen them break before. So what we do is we tighten it up snug, and then we have a dedicated torque wrench on it that torques it to a predetermined amount. Clicked right there. It's tight. It's not going to come loose. It doesn't need to be, you know, super tight. We don't want to stress that bolt. So we'll do that on both sides, and we're good to go. We're all done with the bed panel now. We've got our leg on, we've got our strap on, we've got our cross braces, everything's all screwed down. Now our last thing to do that we're gonna prep before we put this in place is we have 2 types of bolts, and one is an Allen head wrench bolt with a nut, and then one is a regular 1/2-inch head. And so this one goes in the top hole right here. You can see it right there where Matt's putting it in. And that one is gonna be finger tight. We're just gonna leave it hanging out like that. And this one goes in the back hole right in. You can see it right in here, just in front of that L bracket. And that one we're gonna tighten all the way up. I'm gonna show you where those go on the mechanism when we put it in. The upper bolt that we left loose is going to drop in right here when we arm this bed. It's going to drop in here, and then one with the Allen wrench is going to come in right here, and it's going to stop right in there. Once we get it in place, there's a center one that we're going to install through that hole and lock everything into place. Okay, Matt's got the bar that comes in the kit here. This is how we arm the mechanism so that we can put it on. So it's going to slide down over the top right here, and that gives us leverage to pull this out. On the back side right here is our flippy dealy. So Matt's gonna pull it out, And from that side of the mechanism, he's gonna lift that flippy dealy up and pull it past, and it's gonna hook on that. Okay, we are ready to install the bed panel. I'm gonna pull that lever off. We wanna be careful with this. There's a lot of tension right here. And now we're gonna lift the bed up and place it in here. Okay, we're gonna place this in the bed now. We've got our bolt pulled out right here. We're gonna lift it up. These are a little bit narrow sometimes, and so we're gonna put it in one side and we're just give it a little bit of push and then drop the other side in. Here we go, guys. And then we lower it down. That Allen head is back in here and it's hit against the stop. Now we're gonna pull the bed down. The flippy dealy is gonna drop off, the bed is armed. And we're gonna pull it down, put the leg down, go all the way down with it. And now we're gonna put our bolt in right here. We're gonna use the impact to thread it in. Sometimes it's kind of tight. And then we wanna put the impact on the nut side so that we're not scratching up the black bolt. Just like that. That's doing a great job. And then we're also going to tighten this guy here, same thing. And then we're going to repeat that process on the other side. Now that we've got that done, we're just going to open and close the bed once before we put the mattress on it to check the function of it. This particular bed we don't have handles on yet because they're a custom one. Normally we'll drill the handles when we're assembling the bed, but this one we'll wait until we get here. We just want to close it and make sure that everything's functioning and it works. We're not going to let go of it. We're going to be careful there because there's no handles on it. It's a little tough to open. Okay, it all looks good. Go ahead and leave it closed, Phil. We'll put the handles on. On this bed, we just have a single piece. We call it Portland crown. It's just an additional top shelf on the bed. Matt's going to put that up there. We're just going to put a couple of screws on there to hold that in place. And we don't have much adjustment in gaps. But so what we want to do is we want to look at it top to bottom and make sure that it's even. And we can adjust that gap if it's not quite right. We can come over here and by bumping the bottom, we moved the bottom of the bed this way about a ½ inch. And as what that does is our gap is down here is about a ¼ of an inch. And as you notice, we get to the top, it gets much wider. So by moving the bottom of the bed, we can adjust that gap. So we're gonna come back over here and we're gonna pop it back just a little bit. Now that we have the gaps all looking good, the last thing to do to mount this to the wall is we're gonna pull the bed down and we're gonna put one screw through the back stretcher to hold it in place to keep it from sliding.
Okay, so last thing we're gonna put on before we put the mattress is we're gonna put on these spring covers. So there's a little notch in the front that it'll slide into and then one screw in the back.
We'll place the mattress on the bed frame. We've got to attach our strap. You can see our buckle down here is on the side, so it's not there. I just tell people to leave that strap on, go ahead and make the bed. Whereas what we're gonna do is we're gonna check it to make sure the bed should be easy to raise and lower. Go ahead and give it a lift up, Matt. How's it feel? Perfect. And there we go. We're all set. Last thing we're gonna do is we're gonna put a bumper on the top corner here behind the door on both sides so that when it closes it doesn't bang. It's nice and smooth. Got a little bumper in about 1 inch from the corner right there. And we are all set. Additional place for a bumper, we want to put it here when the leg closes. We don't want it to bang there. So we put a little bumper right there on each side so when it closes it hits that. It's nice and soft and quiet. Place our grommets in the bottom here and we're all good to go. Bed's all finished. Looking nice. Let's Matt's got here, we put these 2 stickers on the top that tell the customer we don't unbolt it from the wall and to call us if they need to move it. And we put those up on top on the L brackets so that to get the screws out of the L bracket, they literally have to screw through the sticker. This final sticker right here, we tell the customer, hey, you always want to pull it from the center of the leg bar. If you get in the habit of pulling it from the sides, it can get kind of funky and it'll cause it to be loose, but if you always pull it here, it works out nice and smooth and will stay that way for the life of the bed. Is what we normally do. This is the bar. This bed can be taken apart and moved, and so we don't want to lose this, so what we do is we take it and we just slide it up top here out of the way.